Welcome back, my friends, to the second part of our time talking about brainwashing. Fun, fun, fun. And, there's so much here. I may have to do a third part, possibly. I'm going to try and get all of this in within an hour, as best I can. But if it goes over, I will make a third part. Just be patient with me because my job is having me work completely overtime. As in no days off this week. But I'm getting on this as best I can when I can. I'm pushing it much more forward to my priorities. So, without any further ado, of course, we cannot have our brainwashing without our drugs, right? Like the CIA do it. Of course, we're getting to know these tactics so we can spot it when it's happening, and we can dodge it. And these ones in particular are just the ones I personally experienced. I don't talk about all the ones. I don't talk about drugs being involved with brainwashing because that was not part of my personal experience. Just these 11 ones that we've been going through. And so we're going to finish those 11, 7 through 11. And then we'll talk a little bit more about who it is that gets brainwashed. Told you in the previous video, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And a little bit different perspective I would like for you to consider towards those who are brainwashed versus unbrainwashed. And then also how, in discussing each one of these, I want to be able to run through quickly at the end how we can use each of these 11 tactics per se, or maybe not how we can use them, because we don't want to use them per se. We want to figure out how to counter them. We want to keep these from happening to us. And if we're stuck with someone who's trying to do these things to us, what can we do to resist or, not be brainwashed? And what can we do to unbrainwash ourselves? That's why I said this might take a third video, because that's a lot right there. So, let's get to it. The seventh point, or the seventh item on the list that was used on me. They, in part of their attempt to brainwashing, they degrade you for resisting their brainwashing by making you feel humiliated, worthless, and inferior. Inferior to them? Yeah, maybe. They may not say it that way, but they will definitely try and make you feel inferior of some sort of nature. Maybe to the particular version of God they believe in. When I left Christianity, there was no respect of my personal choice of leaving. Sure, they didn't try and force me at gunpoint to return to Christianity, but they would continue to bring it up. They would, especially my parents, especially my mom, she still does this sometimes, would send gospel tracts or daily breads, which is Christian devotional booklet. It is, they'd be random pages cut out from these daily bread devotionals. Okay, if you don't know what a daily devotional thing is that I'm talking about, it's what Christians might read, as part of their, reading the Bible every day. It would be something scheduled for every day of the month. It would just have a passage of scripture that, in the Daily Bread Company's case, they also had a passage of scripture to help someone be able to read through the Bible in an entire year. And then as part of their daily spiritual time of reading and everything, they also had this little page that sometimes had a story on it, a short story, or just some inspirational writing by some person that someone felt was worthy of being thought of as being extra spiritual, and put it in the book. So it might be some famous Christian writer or preacher or someone that wrote something and they liked it and they put it in their daily devotional thing. And Christians read it. And my mom would send these to me. And a lot of times it would be things about the prodigal son, or, coming back to God. Things of that nature. Reminding you that you're a sinner, that you need help, that you need Jesus in your life. Otherwise, God's gonna come after you, or you're gonna regret it someday. If not while you're alive, then when you're burning in hell in the place we can't prove is there. They try and make you feel like shit. Basically. They may not say it that way directly. My parents never tried to say it that way directly. They weren't the type to say, you're gonna burn hellfire and brimstone. They wouldn't get loud and yell and angry like Southern hardcore Baptists, but they would say it all in a much more toned down, but still hitting you every time with it, because that's the only way they know how to show that they care, because that's how they've been brainwashed to show that they care themselves, is to just keep trying to pull you back into the cult and do like they do, and just be hooked in doing all the same things they do, be trying to please everyone, because they're never going to be happy enough. That's one of the things about the cults. They're never going to be happy enough. Actually, we talked about that. That was one of the previous points. Alright, so let's move on to number 8. So number 8, we have a repetition of a ritual. Doing something repeatedly over and over and over again to cement it down into your mind, to kind of make a rut of it, so that you get used to doing this thing on a regular basis, so you always keep coming back to it, to where even if you don't believe in it, as long as your parents make you keep doing it over and over again, hopefully you'll just naturally keep doing it for the rest of your life, and they'll be at least somewhat satisfied and happy with you. If you're brainwashed enough, trained enough to do that. So, repetition of ritual in my case, and of course they didn't see it as brainwashing, because they were brainwashed to do it themselves by their parents, and them by their parents. But whether we believed in the Bible and Christianity and wanted to participate or not, my parents forced us every single day to take part in reading the Bible. There was a specific ritual to how we did it. I'm not going to go into the details because it doesn't really matter. But the point is, we would do it every single day, roughly around the same time. And then in addition to that, of course, because my parents were very serious Christians, they made sure that we were at every single church service and at every single church event that we could possibly be at. And not of just one church either, but of multiple. If they overlapped, don't worry, they had their favorites. Although I can't really remember too many times where we had to worry about that. But that was the big thing, repetition of ritual. Now I will say there is something good about church, I'm not going to say as a religion per se, because that's a whole different topic, but getting together in a friendly environment, in a community of other like-minded, friendly, neighborly people on a regular basis and getting to know them from your community is definitely a good thing to do on a regular basis. Weekly could be fun, maybe not that often, because I think most people want to have a bit more time to themselves on weekends than devote every single weekend. But like a community thing every other week or once a month is a totally great idea. It's good to have people get together from a local community, get to know each other. I think it should be allowed to be a lot more mixed. It shouldn't be strictly one religion. Obviously, religions can go do their own thing, whatever. But my point is, I'm for communities just getting together and just hanging out. Obviously, people want to say, well, just come to a bar. That's where everyone goes after church, right? And yeah, that is where a lot of people go after church, and people who don't go to church. But unfortunately, that doesn't appeal to all religious types. And it'd be good to have like a good family-friendly environment for literally everyone could come in and just hang out and get to know each other once a month or something like that. I'm not trying to host or make up anything like that, but I'm just saying there is a good side to going to church. It's not the religious side. There are good bits and parts to the religion, but there's a lot of brainwashing and I'm not going to get into it. There's good and there's bad, okay? So yeah. But ritual is a tremendous thing. They go above and beyond. They're all about dedicating themselves to the ritual. That's my point of bringing it up. It's not trying to talk up against community or anything like that, but they make an overemphasis on ritual because when you train your body to do something over and over again, it's just like in the military. You get very refined, you get muscle memory to do these things. And cults will very much emphasize rituals, importance of rituals. They make it an enforcement that you have to do. That's the big thing. A lot of guilt tripping if you don't take part in that stuff. And the next point is also repetition, but not of a muscle memory fashion, not a doing fashion. It's a little bit different. It is repetition. Now listen to me carefully. Try not to take this completely literally. Just listen. Number 9, they emphasize repetition of black and white statements about things that are actually gray. They emphasize repetition of black and white statements about things that are actually gray. So, like like a black and white statement could be like, the sky is blue. The problem with the statement the sky is blue, is that while yes, it does look blue, that the problem with that statement is that it's partially true, but it's also partially not true. Because if we know enough about what science and research and exploration has taught us, is that that's not actually blue up there. Like, it's the color that we see, yeah, but like that's not a solid picture. Like, what's beyond there, it's like, it's black and there are stars and everything. It only looks that way because the sun is overhead and it's creating that to where that's what we see. But that's not actually what it is. See what I'm saying? But like a cult might say, no, there's nothing beyond the blue and the black. There is nothing beyond there. And if you disagree and say anything other than that the sky is blue, you know, you're an infidel. You are not one of us. You are not one of the chosen. You are not one of the righteous. You must say that the sky is blue and nothing else, or you're out. And that is one of the things they will do. They will try and take truth and twist it and then be like, all right, this is how it is, and we're not changing it. We're not following science. We're not going with reality. We're sticking with what one guy decided at one point in history, and we're just going to stay with that. And that is what a lot of modern religion is. Slowly evolving out of that one person stuck in a corner not wanting to face reality. How did this happen to me? Well, in religion, I mean, it's verbal. So verbal statements, you know, the praying, preaching, hearing things over and over and over again, just the different statements, you know, from the Bible that are, you know, I've got a whole series about that you could check out. Christians and the Bible. Yeah, I was brainwashed to take the Bible as it was at face value. And, you know, I was made to take it very literally, you could say black and white. But the Bible is anything but. It is anything but holy, Holy. Just holy, Holey. Did I make that joke in the last video? Sorry, it doesn't get old for me. But I guess you could say the way it affected me the most, because I've been able to drop a lot of other things that I was lied to about, and I was brainwashed on. But the biggest impact, I would have to say, that this one made on me, like the biggest black and white statement that has affected me in the long run to this day, was that because my parents were homophobic, that, you know, men were only straight and women were only straight, and that, you know, being gay, bisexual, all that wasn't real. That's what I was taught. And so, you know, I had no real world exposure to that for a long time. didn't believe any of that was real, much less fathomed the idea that it could be real within myself. But I discovered otherwise. And, you know, even though I know, there is a whole variety of what people can like and people can enjoy. I like a whole variety of things, but it's affected me to the point to where it's I didn't know about myself the way I am until I was an adult. A young adult, at least. Well, it's been about 9 years, I suppose. 9, 10, something like that. And it's still difficult for me to come out of my shell about it. And just to even talk about it in general. It's not something that I'm necessarily ashamed of per se, or maybe I am. Maybe maybe it's something I'm still a bit brainwashed about, or I don't know. It's something that I have a difficult time tapping into and understanding at will. It takes a lot of work for me to try and understand. And it's not easy. It's not easy for me because I've been straight. Okay, well, I have been straight. I've been completely straight my whole life. Up until that point when I realized I wasn't completely straight. And so it's just learning to incorporate that, and it's something that's just still very difficult for me because I've been used to being nothing but straight my whole life. So I'm definitely gray. I definitely believe in the gray on so many things, and there are a few things in the universe that are black and white, and we won't get into discussion about that, but there are a lot more things that are gray than we give them credit for. And I'm certain there are more things out there that I'm aware of, because I'm learning it all the time, and someone as dumb as me is always still learning shit. And I've been around the block on the world. If you haven't gotten out that far, or even if you've gotten out a little bit at all, then you know there's more out there. You know there's more gray out there. There's always more gray. And that's what you're going to keep finding the more you go out there. More gray. Alright, this next one. Manipulation through fear. Cults like to manipulate through fear. They make you fear consequences. Could be reasonable consequences that they try and create, or that they try and they try and blame. They try and, like, when things don't go well for you, they try and blame it on you being sinful, or you being a sinner, or you not turning back to God. They try and put that paranoia in the back of your mind. Well, you did this, so that's why this is happening to you now. They try and connect the dots to things that may not necessarily really be there. And they just try to make things worse for you than they are with that extra paranoia in the back of your head. They try and give you threats could be threats from them to you. It could be from their deity to you. If you don't serve my God, he'll burn you in hell. That is, they may not word it like that, but when it boils down to that, that's pretty scary. That's pretty intimidating. And my dad in particular, he liked to be scary and intimidating himself. And he liked to, he liked to keep me and my other siblings paranoid and always afraid. One of the things he liked to ask us was like, when we would be punished, or, well, sometimes when he would punish us, when he would send us back to the bedroom to be talked to, he would sometimes ask us, do you know what you did to be here? And if we couldn't remember, because when you're a kid, or when you have ADHD, like I do, you have an active day, busy day, whatever, you forget, then you don't remember, you get accused of lying, and you get punished extra. And then sometimes, sometimes we'd say, if we couldn't remember something, we would make something up that we didn't do to try and not get punished extra. And then we would get punished extra, or we wouldn't have a punishment coming in the first place, and our dad was just testing us. And then we got punished for the shit we made up. In trying to be good and to behave. So, mental manipulation happened a lot. And a lot of threatening of being spanked, because that was largely the only way we got punished for the majority of our lives at home. And that was, and yeah, I mean, being grounded wasn't as big a deal. It still got the point home, but honestly, physical punishment, I think, has to be one of the most terrible things. I've gone back and forth about it in the past, but the older I've gotten, and the more I keep thinking about it, the more I realize just how much physically beating a child has no real good excuse anymore. The only reason it's done is either out of training, because you've been trained to think that it's the right way, or because you're just straight up angry. And honestly, I think the person who was originally trained to think that it was loving was being beaten by someone who is just mad and being frustrated in the first place. Because that's what all abuse ultimately is bullying from another bully. And honestly, I think my biggest thing I've realized with this, it is really a brainwashing tactic to beat someone into submission. Especially to do it over and over and over and over again for every single thing that they do, whether it's the same thing that they do or something different. We've evolved to the point in society where we don't tie someone to a post and whip them anymore. We don't put them in stocks and chains anymore. We don't drag them through the streets anymore, naked, and ring a bell and yell, shame, shame, shame. We don't do that shit. We don't strip their pants down and beat their ass in public when they get a speeding ticket. Cops aren't supposed to use their batons for that sort of shit, or for beating anyone up in general, unless it's for self-defense or subduing an actual criminal. But, you know, when the police are doing things the way they are supposed to be doing, they aren't treating adults the way adults treat little children, which is the way adults used to treat other adults back in the Dark Ages, back in the medieval era. Well, the kid's hyperactive. Well, the kid just doesn't listen. Well, maybe there are other consequences in the real world other than getting spanked that are far worse, that you could somehow, you know, not perform, obviously, on the child, but, you know, show it to them. It's like, look, if you keep stealing, this is what's going to happen to you down the road. And, you know, try and figure out a way to, maybe not, don't take them to a prison or, you know, whatever. Maybe find something in correlation. You know, there's something, and obviously maybe you need to talk to them. You know, maybe you need to connect with them a little bit more. There's some sort of, there's a lack of communication, and hitting them really isn't going to work. Talking to them. The same thing that we do in society now. Timeouts, you know, paying a fine, literally, big-ass timeout, paying a fine, you know, losing the privilege of something you wish you had, you know, a.k.a. money, a.k.a. a license to drive, shit like that, you know, but at a kid's level. And then if they keep on doing that shit, well, you know, maybe, you know, before they end up in, you know, juvenile detention or whatever, you know, you could reconnect with them before they get that far and fix the shit between you and them. You know, maybe you could do better as a parent. You know, maybe you could spend more time with them. Maybe that's part of why they're acting out the way they are. Or who knows, you know, maybe you and them need to learn to meditate together or some shit. You know, just, you need to connect with them, obviously. Because there is no excuse for beating anymore. There really isn't. I'm going to shut up with that and move on. And then the last one I have is dependency. Now, my parents created this environment with homeschooling me. Honestly, I don't think they were thinking about the effects that it was having on me, but it did create a very isolating effect to where I strongly depended on them and their style of religion and the type of people they hung out with and who I got advice from and everything for, you know, pretty much a huge portion of my life and for a good chunk of time while I was independent and on my own. Still as a Christian. Obviously, when I left Christian, that all went poof. And that shit hasn't been that bad since. It's only gotten better. But the dependency they created was the way they do it, the way the cults do it, and the way Christians keep doubting Christians from leaving is by only keeping those other Christians coming back to them to the manipulators, to the preachers, who are the experts at keeping people in, who are, of course, brainwashed themselves. Most of them actually mean well. We'll get more into that later. But they keep you coming back. They keep you returning. And not just to the main people in the church or to themselves, the parents, but also to, it's like, oh, well, you want some advice from someone who's been out there and seen what it's like? Well, here's a book by someone who tried to disprove Christianity and got saved. Or here's a book by a Christian who left and then came back. Things like that. What they won't share with you is the far more number of books and testimonies out there of people who have left and never come back and never will, and are still out there saying, please be careful if you get into that. Watch yourself, because they will brainwash the fuck out of you. They really will. That's why I'm making these videos, for you. And for those of you who have survived and who are trying to survive. They want you to only go to the sources that are within the cult, that are connected to keeping with people in the cult. They don't want you to explore outside the box. They don't want you to know there are other choices that are actually good and functional. They don't want you to know that there are other ways to the top of the mountain. They want you to only think that theirs works. That is what a cult is. They want you to think only their way is the way to the top of the mountain. This is the way. And cults like to jump all over that stuff. They also like to use popular media to try and get more converts. You better believe Christians were all over that shit. When The Mandalorian came out, this is the way. Oh yeah, they loved that shit. I didn't even see a whole lot. And the bit I saw... Good grief. I knew they would love it. But that is what they do. They use everything they can to try and circle you back in, keep you coming back so you don't explore other ideas, so you're not as free, so that you're not as open to other ways of thinking, other ways of being, other ways of supporting, other ways of being yourself that is natural for yourself. They want to hem you in. They want to tell you, just as I am. They tell you that, but they really want to cut you off from everything that whatever their particular version of Christianity says is wrong, and chisel you into their image, their best version of what they want out of you, not your best version out of what is actually good for you. Some of them... Well, okay, we're actually kind of at that point now, I guess, because that's the dependency shit that we've finished. But now we're actually on those people that are trying to convert and who are easiest to convert. The two best... Okay. Sorry, let me rephrase that. This is still only one beer, you know. Okay, there are people who convert. The best ones who are the best at it, like some of my siblings, they're very passionate. They actually believe it. They're really into it. They're serious. Serious Christians, serious pastors. serious full-time workers. They really believe their stuff. And they are the most sincere. And the vast majority, okay, yeah, I would say the vast majority of the absolute best converters in a cult and in a mainstream religion are the people who genuinely do care about you. Even if they're a little bit crazy, a bit off in the head, and really shouldn't be shoving their religion in your face, they actually do care. A lot of them really do. Even if they're really terrible at showing it and being super inconvenient on your Sunday mornings or afternoons by knocking on your door and bothering you. But the people that are converted the easiest are the same kind. Are the people who want to see the world be a better place as well. Who want to see other people around them thrive and do better and be happy. And if something works for them, they want to share it with them too. And honestly, that is a natural human trait, to where if you think something is working for you, like you genuinely believe it, you naturally want to share it with other people and see them be happy as well. It makes sense, whether you're in a cult or not. You know, hey, this fruit tastes really awesome. Have you ever had a peach before? It's really awesome. I'm not in a cult of peaches. I just think peaches taste really good. Have you had a peach yet? There are people who love peaches. And then there are people who do the exact same shit with religion. But they treat it the same way. They treat it like their cult is a peach, like it's good for you, like it's healthy. And maybe they have thrown some things in there that are truthful, like, oh yeah, we meditate, we do this, we do that, we do it to demonic music, blah, blah, blah. You didn't hear that. We also do this have sunny, nice walks and drink non-poisonous lemonade. Watch your shit. And then the people that those are the majority of the converters, the best converters, and you know, the majority of the people who get converted. Now the rest of them, okay, well that was the majority, so the rest of them actually isn't that many. The rest of the people that do the converting, they're the ones you really got to watch out for, because they're actors. They definitely don't care about your greater good. They just care about getting as much good out of you as they can for themselves. And we know about plenty of them, especially the ones that like to smile real big on TV and you know, have nice big mansions and not share their massive churches with homeless people during terrible storms and such like that. And store their money in church walls, funny things like that. Aren't religious people funny? But that's what brainwashing does to people. Both the people trying to use it and the people who just mean well and are trying to do the best for other people. Like, my parents took it a bit too strict, but they were on the little bit more nicer side, as like it's nicer / bit cult / a little sadistic / better side. Like, they weren't Joel Osteen type. They were genuine about it. I mean, they were genuine about it. A little in a rather dark way. But the majority, that's the majority of religious people mean well. And that's, I say, like, you know, the majority, you know. The infinitesimal little small random cults, I miss and hit on those. But like the big mainstream groups in general, the masses, not the popes and the preachers. The preachers you got to take a little bit more individually. I think, leave that aside. I know as far for the masses go, the majority of them mean well. The majority. You're going to have hypocrites everywhere. You're going to have assholes scattered everywhere. You're going to have corrupt people here and there that don't know what they're doing, or they're taking advantage of things. But the vast majority, your everyday Joe, they're just like you and me, just trying to get through the day. And their religion is what helps them, for most people, helps them look on the brighter side of things. Most people. But, you know, when we start seeing these red flags coming at us, what can we do about it? I will not get a second beer. What can we do about it? All right, let's run through these real quick. Perceived choice. When you're being limited on choices, keep thinking outside the box. It's good practice anyways. There's always more options out there than you think there are. Sometimes they're being limited on purpose. Sometimes they're not. But there's always more options out there. Keep thinking outside the box. Isolation. When they're trying to isolate you from friends and family, things like that, it's one thing if they're your parents and they're your guardians and things of that nature, and you're not legally able to do what you want, or, you know, if you need to get the authorities involved, you know, then your life is in danger, your physical well-being is in danger. Well, maybe you should seriously talk to an adult outside, a mature adult outside of their circles, because that is not within their cult circles, their super tight-knit religious circles, because that can be dangerous. They can report to each other sometimes. They can spy on each other. My family was kind of like that a little bit, and we were exposed to that type of teaching within Christianity. It's not a common thing, but it is a thing that is there. So you wanna do the reverse of that. Now, good family and friends do want you to be careful of who you spend your time with. This is true. I think I talked about that earlier, but you want to be careful. You need to be allowed to learn to make those decisions for yourself. People should not be constantly cutting you off and never letting you have a chance to grow. Especially the older you get. The older you get, the more of those chances you need to be taking, those lessons you need to be learning for yourself. Because you're going to be doing it completely all on your own someday. So, always keep branching out. Always keep trying to learn more from different perspectives. The emotional control aspect, how they try to control your emotions. Do your best to not let them do that, because letting someone make you angry or make you sad or make you happy, and they're trying to use it in a manipulative sort of way, they're trying to get something out of you, or they're trying to make it a command aspect. The human body is like, that's not how we're programmed to be. You need to be allowed to express yourself, and you need to express yourself. punching bag, art, writing, rage room, um, you know, do something safe that doesn't hurt yourself or someone else. Cry. It is okay to cry. Whatever you have to do. They'll probably try and make you feel ashamed for it. You should not feel ashamed of crying. They will exhaust you with above and beyond standards. One of those aspects, I had to start teaching myself to say no. I actually started doing this as a Christian because they were getting to me that much. They kept asking me to participate in church. They kept asking me to preach and lead music, and I'd have to be like, look, I really don't. I had to figure out how to say I don't want to without sounding like a bad Christian. You know how difficult that is? They really guilt-tripped me for that. And they hardly had to say anything. They just had to look at you the right way. They just had to make the right light enough comment to where it just stings you. You did the wrong thing. It was too selfish of you. God's not as happy about it as he could have been. They just want you to keep doing more and keep serving more. Their way. It's all about them and what they want from you. And you gotta say no. You gotta look after yourself. They try and manipulate your hobbies. Obviously, that's another no-go. If I ever do another strictly Christian, like pro-Christian type of picture, I will have to be paid for it. That much is for sure. Otherwise, all my art is the type of art I want to do. Or the art that I get paid to do. But I'm never doing Christian art again for freaking suggestion. Oh, not like how I was before. Never saying yes to that stuff again. I like getting to do my own hobbies the way I want to, without religious or cult influence. I like to do what I want to because it's what I feel. It's what resonates with me. It's what I feel is cool, what I feel is awesome, what I think looks great. The more they try to induct you, the more they will implant their shit everywhere, and you gotta just say no. The repetition of the stuff, the degrading. You just have to ignore it. You have to not let it get to you. Because there's not much left they can do to you after that. Unless it's physical, then it's time to get the police involved. But otherwise, you make those words bounce off you. You don't let those words get to you. Because you are better than that. You are a wonderful human being. You are capable of taking care of yourself. You are capable of becoming responsible. And you are capable of not being brainwashed. You are capable of that freedom. Repetition of ritual. Well, if you're in a family, there's only so much you can do. Try and get along with your family if you're stuck living with them. But this is actually a reverse tactic you can use on yourself for removing brainwashing. Specifically by meditating. There are plenty of ways of doing that, and that is a whole nother conversation that is going to have to be a whole nother time. Because we got to get through the rest of these. The next one is repetition of those black and white statements about things that are actually gray. One thing you can do towards that, when they try and keep repeating something, a lot of cults like to do chanting. I've noticed that is something churches will actually do. They'll read scripture. They'll read it back and forth between sometimes a preacher or a song leader in a congregation. All the people that are there, for those who don't go to church and don't know what a congregation is. But a lot of other cults will use this as well. I've heard far left cults using this. They like to use chants a lot. Now sometimes you'll hear a chant like in a football stadium or at like a rally or a protest. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a cult. Okay, chants are a good way to get a point across, but it's also something that you got to be very careful with, because when you make a chant out of a black and white statement that isn't really black and white, you can really, it's bad. It's really bad. Like, you really got to hold yourself back and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you got to, and I don't know what to do in a situation like that. I've never been in a situation like that where I've been around, a chanting crowd that's saying stuff that I don't agree with. I'd probably just get out of there, because I don't know what I could do against a crowd like that. Honestly, I don't know. Unless I was very inspired and it was very patriotic, I don't know. I really don't know. But these statements, you need to question these things, and you're not always going to hear it in like a, vocal chanting sort of way, but a lot of times you will hear it coming from people who are brainwashed. They will repeat these things, these statements. And so instead of just accepting them the way they are, and it's actually good to make a habit of this towards everything, put a question mark on everything. Like, is that really the way it is? And then once you know for sure that that's how it is, you leave that question mark there. And if you find that that's a really important topic, well, you research the living crap out of it. You look at both sides, what they have to say, and you don't be biased about it. You be real. And that's how you're going to know, is when you're honest. The truth doesn't always feel good. There's going to be a negative, but also a positive to it. A lot of times. But things are, like I said, things are a lot more gray than we tend to give them credit for. And when we treat them like they're black and white instead, we miss a lot of stuff. A lot of good things. And we make a lot of mistakes as a result. So keep asking those questions. Keep putting a question mark on those things. Especially when they keep repeating a statement like that. If they're making a big deal out of it, it's like, is it true? Or are you just saying that because you want it to be true? Because that's what's more convenient for you. Let's look at the facts. Let's see how black and white that actually is. Let's see if there's some gray in there. And then the manipulation through fear. Honestly, you got to be brave. You got to stand up to that stuff. You do have to pick your fights, though. Some fights not be worth it. You may need to run. You may need to flee for your life. You may need to call the authorities. If your life is in danger, if your physical well-being is in danger, you might need to call the cops. You might need to leave wherever you are. You got to make that decision, but it's for your best interest that you got to be thinking about. Not what they want, not what's they're manipulating you into thinking. Sometimes there's a mix of that between religion and family, and then some cult shit, and then a little bit of sadistic stuff because they were brainwashed too, and it's difficult. I understand, because that's where I come from. It's fucked. And your situation could be even more complicated than that. But you got to do what's best for you in the right moment, at the right time. You got to survive. You got to take care of yourself. You got to know when to stay. You got to know when to go. That's all on you, though. You got to know when to fight. You got to know when to flee. You got to know when to ask for help. You got to ask for help. That's one of my biggest struggles, is asking for help. I'm working on it. The last one is that dependency, which, that just goes right back to some of these other ones. I skipped a few. Or at least there's one I skipped. But that one goes back to like isolation and, perceived choice. That dependency that they try and make you have on them. You got to open your mind. You got to look beyond the borders of where they want you to look. You got to explore. You got to be... I almost said you got to be your own Christopher Columbus, but he was a bad example. Here's a better one. You got to be your own Viking. There we go. Yeah, you got to be your own adventurer. You gotta pick up the sword and shield yourself. You gotta see what's out there. You gotta explore. You gotta see what's up. You can't let people be like, oh no, what they say could harm you. Well, you don't have to take it seriously. Just going out there, seeing what's there. Just checking it out. Just observing. There's nothing wrong with observing. With watching. With listening. Seeing what different people have gone through, hearing the different stories. Maybe there is more than one way to the top. Keep looking. Keep your eyes open. Keep being skeptical. Don't fall into a rut like what people beg you to. Politicians or political parties, religions, social media people, advertisers. Be careful. They're all trying to brainwash you in one way or another. Try and make you a huge fan of them to get their money from you. I mean, who isn't? But the worst ones want more than just your money. They want your servitude. They want your mind. They want control over you. They want to make sure that you belong to them, that you think the way they think, that you vote the way they want you to vote, that you react the way they want you to react. These are some of the ways, but there are other ways, and I'm going to post a couple videos in the description below of some of the videos I came across that share these things in a little bit more modern fashion, bit like some of it's a little bit more of like a relationship type of ordeal, which that brainwashing can happen in that too, like between lovers. Depends on how broken a person is, I guess you could say. I don't know. Every situation's different, but brainwashing can happen anywhere. People can be... The more broken someone is, the more they tend to break others. Even if they're not trying to. Don't realize how much they're broken. Which is sad, but that's part of how the world is. We got to try and be our better selves. We got to try and heal ourselves so that we can show others how to heal themselves. So I'll post those videos in the description below. And you know, there was one more thing. I was going to talk about meditating, I think, a little bit, but I've decided I'm actually going to make that a third video. How to use meditating and brainwashing, so to say, to undo brainwashing that's been done to ourselves. That will be the next video. Yes, that will be the next video. And then there will be an update video that I'll do after that. Yes. That is what we will do. And I'm not quite sure when that next video will come out because like I said, working Saturday and Sunday of this week, meaning I'm working 12 days in a row again. Or is this technically the first time? I don't know. I've been working a lot, let's put it that way. 11 work days in a row. Yeah, it's been fun and rough, so a little bit part of why the videos haven't been coming out. A little bit. But yes, I'll get to that in the update. For now, we are done. And yes, the video's over. Which is just in time for me to have another beer. So, I am going to enjoy this. Because I can't stay up and enjoy too many. I have to go to bed soon. And then edit this tomorrow and hopefully get this uploaded by Sunday morning. Yes, this will be up Sunday morning. Or at least by then. Have a wonderful evening, my friends. Have a good weekend. Stay safe, and until next time, farewell.